Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Wharton. This podcast is all about our journey into the woods of ourselves, getting to know who we are, where we are, and where we're going in life so that we can create the life that we want to live. It's about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. It's also about mindset. Our beliefs are such an important part of this journey. And there are so many ways for us to change our mindset so that we can more easily live a life of expansive joy. This podcast is also about going literally into the woods and spending time in nature, and how that can help us on our own personal journey of self-knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 373. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm recording this the day before I'm set to leave to walk the Ridgeway National Trail for the second time, and I'm super excited about walking this trail again. I'm doing it differently this time. I'm walking it in the opposite direction, which is a bit confusing for planning, but it's all planned out. I've got everything booked, and I'm ready to get going tomorrow. As I've been reflecting on this and getting ready and packing, I've been thinking about how outdoors adventures and sports stuff and fitness stuff, but particularly outdoors adventures like walking a long distance trail, can help you to give yourself permission to be you. And this is something that I've really struggled with over the years, mostly because, as you may know, if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, I have high-functioning autism, formerly known as Asperger's, so I've just felt like a weirdo my entire life and really didn't fit in and knew there was something different about me, and it wasn't until 6 years ago or 5 years ago that I got a formal diagnosis and understood why I was so different. But I spent most of my life trying to be someone I wasn't, trying to act differently to fit in, and it was exhausting. And I know this is something that a lot of people do. A lot of times, whether or not you're on the spectrum, a lot of times it can be difficult to really give ourselves permission to just be us. We often put other people's needs ahead of our needs, and we just don't give ourselves permission to do things we want to do in the way we want to do them. And I've been blogging about this a little bit lately. I did a blog post a couple of weeks ago on the advantages of traveling alone and how solo travel changes you, and I'll link to that in the show notes. Did another blog post on the advantages of solo hiking and how you can get to know yourself through hiking and outdoors adventures on your own. And of course, the advantage of knowing yourself is that you know what you want, and hopefully the next step will be to do the things you want to do, how you want to do, and your way. So today I'm going to talk about how outdoors adventures can help you to give yourself permission to be you. And I want to frame this by saying I don't think this is selfish. I think that the more, obviously it depends. If you have a child and you dump your child on your other half so that you can go out and do things on your own all the time, that's obviously not going to work. Everything needs to be in flow. It needs to be in balance. You have shared responsibilities with other people. Obviously, you need to negotiate things. But I think a lot can be learned from doing things our way, the way we really want to do them. Again, sometimes negotiation is required, but doing our things our way, giving ourselves permission to just be us, ourselves, who we are, without trying to behave the way we think other people want us to behave, or do the things that we think other people want us to do, because that can be really exhausting, and I think it leads to a lot of unhappiness. And I really think that when we give ourselves permission to just be us, to be ourselves, life just gets easier, and I think it helps us to make better decisions, and I think it helps us to be happier. And of course, that has a ripple effect on all the people around us, whether it's our partner, friends, family, child, whatever. I think it can also serve as an example for other people, so that they can give themselves permission to be themselves. And again, everything is relative. Sometimes you need to negotiate things and come to a balance and come to something that works out for both of you. But a lot of times we make decisions that aren't right for us when there are things that don't really affect other people. So let's get into this week's episode. So I'm planning this second Ridgeway walk, and I'm doing it a bit differently from the last time I did it. The first time I did the walk was in 2016, so 4 years ago. And it was my second long walk. This is an 87-mile walk. And it was a bit challenging, very much like my first South Downs Way adventure. Now, I was able to apply a lot of things that I'd learned on the South Downs Way to my Ridgeway walk, but still I made some mistakes and things were a bit challenging. Now, I'll link to this national trail in the show notes so that you can take a look at it if you want to look at it, so you can see, kind of have an idea of what this trail is like. It's 87 miles, like I said, and it follows, as the name describes, it follows a ridge, and it has some ups and downs, it has some hills, but it mostly follows, especially in the western half of it, along the top of a ridge. So it's got great views, it's a really beautiful trail. It's in the lowlands of southeast England, so it's not super challenging. It's not like you're walking through mountains, you're not climbing mountains. It's not some of the more challenging terrain that you would get in the north. But, it's an 87-mile walk, plus you've got extra miles at the beginning and ending of each day as you walk to and from wherever you're staying. So it ends up being a lot more than just 87. Anyway, I've decided to plan it a little bit differently. I've got one less day to do this journey. So interestingly, I'm doing the exact opposite of what I did when I planned my second South Downs Way adventure. So the South Downs Way, the second time I did it, I added an extra day to make for 2 shorter days rather than 1 longer day, because I really found that challenging the first time around. This time with the Ridgeway, I'm going to do it in 7 days plus an 8th day at Avebury instead of 8 days plus an extra day at Avebury. So the reason I've done this is because the last time I walked this trail, I had a really short day on the last day. It was like 5.5 miles, and it was really just kind of unsatisfying to have such a short day. However, I did that because I didn't want to have the last day be really, really long. So because I'm walking this trail in the opposite direction, that means that I can split the walk up differently. So I'm going to be staying at a couple of the same places as the last time, but I'm going to be staying in a lot of new places because I've split this up very differently. So I'm allowing for some longer days, which is the exact opposite of what the trend had been for me in long distance walking, which was to have shorter days. I'm doing this because I've got some challenges for myself next year that I've signed up for, some ultra walking events, and I want to start walking longer, having longer days so that I can train for those events. As I said, I'm also walking in the opposite direction, so this is going to be very, very different. The reason I'm doing this is because it makes more sense to me to end the walk in Avebury rather than in Ivinghoe Beacon, which is a really nice, pretty viewpoint, but it's in the middle of nowhere and it's not significant to me in a meaningful way. So to me, it makes sense because of my connection with Avebury to walk towards Avebury rather than to start there and end somewhere random. So I'm giving myself permission to do this my way because obviously I'm walking this alone, and I've learned things from my first experience. And I've learned things from my first experience that are allowing me to tailor this to the person I am today rather than the person I was a year ago or 4 years ago. So a year ago, like I said, I changed my South Downs Way route to add an extra day on it because I wanted shorter days because I really wanted to enjoy it. But now I want to push myself a little bit, see if I can do it. I know I can do it. But to see if I can enjoy pushing myself a little bit and having slightly longer days. So I'm giving myself permission to be me and to do this my way, again, because I'm walking this alone and I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, which is one of the benefits of traveling alone. So solo travel and solo outdoor adventures can really help us to give ourselves permission to do things our way because we don't have to check in with anybody to negotiate, to kind of come to a compromise on things. We can do whatever we want, whenever we want, however we want. And I talked about this in an earlier episode, 367, about how to find yourself through solo travel and outdoor adventures. So I won't go into that now. But solo travel can really help us to give ourselves permission to do things our way. However, we also learn from going out with other people. We learn what we like, we learn what we don't like. So if we're traveling with someone else and someone else wants to go to this museum that we don't really want to go to, but we go along anyway, we learn that we really don't like that kind of museum or that kind of thing. And perhaps we might also learn to, even if you're traveling with someone else, you can split up and each person go to a different place during the day and then meet up again for lunch or dinner or whatever. So there are a lot of things that you can learn from traveling and having outdoors adventures with other people. So learning from this, learning from our mistakes or learning from things that we don't like can also help us to make better decisions so that we can give ourselves permission to be ourselves and to do things our way the next time. Just because you're traveling with someone else doesn't mean that you need to be joined at the hip 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also split up and then come back together, as I said. That can be really, really satisfying. And I've done that before when traveling with a partner or with a group of friends. And I found that really, really enjoyable. I mean, I remember this one trip I made with my 2 housemates in ages ago. This was December of 1994. We were traveling together in Barcelona and the surrounding areas, but we were like together all the time, like 3 of us sharing the same room. So we were always together. And it got to this point where we were kind of, I think, slightly fed up with each other and we needed a break. So we decided to take this one day to like all go off, do our things, and then come back together in the evening for, I think, dinner or something, and to share our stories. And it was really exciting. It was so nice because we had all been experiencing this city together for several days and compromising and like deciding to do things together based on what everyone wanted to do. But then when we went away and each did our own thing and then came back together, it just was so nice to talk about our solo experiences and to share our adventures. So I think that's something else to keep in mind when you're traveling with yourself or when you're having outdoors adventures with other people. Like even if you're on a camping trip with other people, if you're camping in the same place every night, you could each, do a solo hike or walk or whatever separately and then come back together and talk about your experiences in the evening. There's all kinds of things you can do even when you're traveling with other people. I tend to be the kind of person who likes to travel alone. So I really like that because I can do my thing, but also I think it's nice to look at how you can do your own thing even when you're traveling with others. So travel, outdoor adventures of any kind really make it easy to get to know yourself because you're away from home, you're away from your routines, you're outside of your normal conditions and activities. And so I think it really highlights what you like, what you dislike. And it makes it easier for us to find out what we like and what we dislike because we're in such a new surrounding. We're doing things that are totally different. And I think it's just easier to see and to feel, again, what we like and what we dislike. And I think it's worth making note of those things, either in your journal or just making a mental note so that you can do things differently the next time if you didn't like something that you experienced. Again, giving yourself permission to be you and to do things the way you want to. So when you're planning an outdoor adventure, think about how you can plan it your way. And again, this depends on whether or not you're traveling solo or whether you're traveling with someone else. If you're traveling with someone else, you're going to have to negotiate things. But think about how you can give yourself permission to plan your adventure your way. So for example, with a day hike, like how long do you want to hike? Do you want to have a leisurely hike with an extended pub lunch? Do you want to have a 10-mile hike that maybe kind of takes up a portion of the day? Do you want to push yourself through the hike? Do you want to take a lot of breaks and take a lot of rest stops? Which is something that I really started doing during my South Downs Way last year, was resting early and often. I talk about this a lot in the book because I found it really useful to like take a break about once an hour, just sit down, take off my shoes, air out my feet, and do that. Or, you can push yourself. See how fast you can go. There are so many different ways that you can approach a day hike. And if you're doing a multiple day hike or a long distance trail, plan the length of each day's hike differently. So you might want to plan some short and easy days. You might want to plan some days that are longer. You might want to play around with it to see what works for you. And give yourself permission to be you when planning this. You don't have to have each day exactly the same. So I'm starting out with some more challenging days, which wasn't necessarily something that I did intentionally. It was because that was the way I could kind of naturally break up the trail. And then I have some easier days towards the end, which actually I really, really like because my favorite portion of the trail is the western half of the trail. So I really like that I can have some shorter days where I can spend more time enjoying the trail on that western half. Whereas the eastern half, I like it. It's beautiful, but it's not my favorite part. So I think this is going to work out really well. I don't know, but I have given myself permission to do what I want, how I want, and to plan the length of each day's hike in that way. Also, pack what you want. Once you've learned what you want to wear on your outdoors adventures, you can pack what you want. So like I'm packing light. I always carry everything on my back, but I don't have to. If I wanted to, I could pack an extra bag and just carry a day pack. And in that extra bag, I could pack all the clothes I wanted. I could pack nice evening clothes to wear something nice out to dinner. Well, not nice out to dinner, but you know what I mean? Something non-sporty out to dinner. I could do that. That's not my thing. I like to carry everything on my back. I don't want to have to worry about sending a bag on ahead. So that's my thing. And I'm giving myself permission to be me and to just, wear the next day's hiking clothes to dinner. Yes, it would be nice to have something totally different. And sometimes when I'm walking in the summer, I will pack like a little dress, but I don't want to carry all the stuff, so I'm not. So again, gives yourself permission to be you, to wear what you want, pack what you want. You could pack like a ton of toiletries or very little, whatever you want. This is your time to do your thing. And in the same way that you can plan your adventure your way, you can also stay wherever you want. Do you want to stay at B&Bs? Do you want to stay at hotels? Do you want to stay at hostels? Do you want to camp? It's a very different experience, backpacking and camping, than it is to staying at B&Bs or hotels or even hostels. I'm not staying in any hostels this time on the Ridgeway because they're not open. There was one hostel that I was looking at to stay at, the same one I stayed at last time, Court Hill, near Wantage. And they're closed. They haven't opened yet because of COVID, so couldn't stay there. But I'm choosing to stay at B&Bs rather than to camp because that's what I want to experience this time. However, next year, I'm planning some outdoor adventures where I'm going to be camping and backpacking and carrying all of my stuff on my back. That's going to be totally different. I'm going to have lots of learning experiences there, and then you're going to learn about that through me, like how not to do things. So again, give yourself permission to be you and stay where you want. Do you want to rough it or do you want to have like a nicer experience? Do you want to be able to shower every night? That's always really nice. You can eat what you want, when you want, where you want. Give yourself permission to do that. So I normally practice intermittent fasting. I don't do that so much when I'm doing a long distance journey. I still practice time-restricted eating, so I'm probably going to just be eating breakfast and dinner, which is not really fasting because I'm probably not going to be able to fit those within an 8-hour window, but I'm still going to eat 2 separate meals and not snack in between. That's what works for me. That's not going to work for other people. So again, give yourself permission to be you. Another thing you can do when planning your adventures, whether it's a day hike or a long-distance trail, weather. Do you like to walk in the rain? Do you like to be outdoors in the rain? Some people do, some people don't. I think that as long as you've got good waterproofs, good rain gear, it's not a problem to be out in the rain. I don't mind it. Obviously, I prefer when it's not raining, but I won't postpone a day hike or a long distance trail because of the rain. But other people are different. So give yourself permission to be you. If you don't want to be outdoors in the rain, don't do it. And that may involve canceling things or changing things or whatever. But again, give yourself permission to be you. I've been thinking a lot as I was kind of putting together my notes for this episode. I was thinking about the Camino. And as you may know, I've been wanting to walk the Camino de Santiago for years and was supposed to walk 2 of the routes this year, but that didn't happen because of COVID. So it's going to happen in 2022, probably, unless I change my mind, which I doubt I will. But a lot of people, I've read so many books about the Camino, and a lot of people talk about the importance of walking your Camino. Because a lot of people will get really judgmental about the way other people walk the Camino. I was reading this book earlier this year about this man and his wife walking the Portuguese Camino, and they were traveling with really small backpacks. And people were really surprised by how light they had packed. And in conversations with other people, they realized that people thought that they had sent their bags on ahead, that these were just their day packs. And they felt a lot of judgment from people who were like, you shouldn't have light. You should be carrying all your stuff on your back. You shouldn't be sending stuff on ahead. And they were making all these assumptions that were wrong. And they kept insisting, no, these are our packs with everything. But the thing is, even if they had sent their bag on ahead, that's their Camino. That's what they would have chosen to do. And other people will be judgmental about people choosing to stay in hotels or B&Bs rather than staying in the pilgrim refuges. This is absolute BS. Walk your Camino your way, walk your long distance trail your way, hike your day hike your way, do your outdoors adventures your way. Forget how judgmental other people might be. Forget what other people may think about how you're choosing to have your outdoor adventure. And this is something that I've really struggled with, especially since I write about my outdoors adventures. a lot of times I feel like I'm not hardcore enough. Like I'm taking it really easy and I only walk like 10 or 12 miles a day and I'm making it easy on myself. And I feel like I should be more. I should be pushing myself harder, or I don't know. But it's taken me years of publishing these books to get used to the fact that this is who I am. This is how I hike. This is how I walk a long distance trail. And that's okay because there are going to be other people like me. In the same way, there are going to be other people like you. If you're not publishing your stories, it doesn't even matter whether there are other people like you. If you want to do your things on your own. The important thing is that you give yourself permission to do what you want, when you want, how you want, in your outdoors adventures. And this is I've been talking a lot lately about your comfort zone and stretching outside of your comfort zone, and how when you stretch outside of your comfort zone in one area of your life, that will stretch it in other areas of your life. And of course, that's a good thing because that helps you to do different things and bigger things and to do things differently. But I really think that when we give ourselves permission to be ourselves in our outdoors adventures, that will help us to give ourselves permission to be ourselves in other areas of our lives, whether that's our business, our job, our creative ventures, or other things. And I think that the more that we give ourselves permission to be ourselves, and to do things when we want, how we want, where we want, again, when that's possible. There are going to be times when you have to come to a compromise with someone and negotiate. I've said that many times. But when you give yourself permission to do what you want, when you want, how you want, where you want, I feel like that really helps you to kind of get on track with life and focus on doing the things you want to do, how you want to do them. And it just helps you to improve your life and to be happy in your life because you're doing the things you want to do rather than doing the things that you think you should do or that other people you think you should do or doing things the way other people think you should do them or whatever. So I really think that when we give ourselves permission to be ourselves and to do things our way, I think that is a road to happiness, one of the roads to happiness. And I mean, isn't that kind of all what we want out of life? We just want to be happy. I know that I've learned so much about myself in the last few years of getting to know myself and of paying attention to what I want and doing things how I want them. And I am so much happier now than I used to be when I was focusing on the shoulds, when I was focusing on what I thought I should do or how I should do it or where I should do it or whatever. So again, giving yourself permission to be yourself will help you to let go of the shoulds. So let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Please drop me a line and let me know how outdoors adventures have helped you to give yourself permission to be you. Or feel free to drop me a line and let me know how you are giving yourself permission to be you. Like, what are some specific examples of ways in your life that you have learned to give yourself permission to be you? I love hearing from people. So drop me a line at holly@hollywharton.com or find me online and get in touch there. I would love to hear from you. I love hearing from listeners. It's so nice. So that's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean the world to me. Thank you for that. And remember to visit hollywharton.com/373 for the show notes on this episode. And if you check out hollywharton.com/371, that was my episode with Joanna Hennon, the transcript is already up for that. So if you want to check that out, there it is. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to this while I'm still on my Ridgeway walk, follow me on Instagram, instagram.com/hollywharton, or follow me on there to see what I already did if you're listening to this after I've come back. So again, thank you for listening, and I wish you the best of luck in giving yourself permission to be yourself, and I hope you get out there and have some exciting outdoor adventures. Have a great week. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Wharton. That's patreon.com/Holly Wharton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.